Whoa, dude. This is wild, man. The textures are like unreal.
The Euphrates is shrinking. Across parts of Turkey, Syria, and Iraq, the water has retreated from familiar banks, exposing cracked earth, buried stone, and openings that may have remained hidden for centuries. Then came the footage. A dark entrance, beneath a collapsed riverbank. A staircase descending below the riverbed. Walls covered in strange symbols. And deeper inside, according to the reports, human-like remains were discovered beside ancient weapons and carvings, showing 4 figures standing near flowing water. The most disturbing claims have not been independently verified. No recognized archaeological institution has publicly confirmed the cave, the remains, or the leaked recordings. But the location alone was enough to capture worldwide attention. Could these discoveries simply be the remains of a forgotten civilization exposed by drought? Or has the shrinking river uncovered something people were never meant to find? In this video, we will follow the staircase, examine the reported evidence, and uncover the mystery surrounding what may still lie beneath the Euphrates. Stay with us until the end, and if you are fascinated by ancient mysteries, lost civilizations, and discoveries buried beneath history, like the video, subscribe. And tell us in the comments what you believe may still be hidden beneath the river. According to the account, the first people to enter the opening were not archaeologists, soldiers, or government officials. They were teenagers from a nearby village. After the water retreated, local residents had begun walking along the newly exposed banks, searching for scrap metal, pottery, and anything that might have been uncovered by the falling river. The boys noticed a narrow black space beneath a section of collapsed ground. From a distance, it looked like an ordinary erosion cavity. But when they climbed down, they found worked stone. The entrance was larger than it appeared from above. Its upper edge had been reinforced with blocks, and beneath the mud lay the first steps of a staircase descending into darkness. One of the boys began recording. The footage was unstable, filled with nervous laughter and short arguments about whether they should continue. Their phone lights moved across damp walls, broken pottery, fragments of hardened rope, and deposits of black sediment packed into the corners of the steps. The air changed as they descended. It became colder. Not the natural coolness of shade, but a dry, penetrating cold that seemed to rise from the chambers below. Then the camera caught the markings. Lines of symbols had been cut into the stone. Some were shallow and badly worn. Others appeared deeper, almost as though they had been carved at different periods by different hands. The boys could not read them, but they understood enough to realize they were not random scratches. Near the lower landing, their voices stopped. Something moved in the darkness beneath them. At first, the sound resembled loose stones sliding across the floor. Then it lengthened into a harsh, metallic groan. A pause followed. Then another scrape. Slow, heavy, rhythmic. One of the boys whispered that it sounded like iron being dragged across rock. The group turned and ran. The final seconds of the video showed blurred steps, walls flashing in and out of view, and frightened breathing as they climbed back toward daylight. But the story became darker when the villagers returned later. A phone was reportedly found near the entrance. One teenager was missing. No body was recovered. No clear trail was found inside the passage. And within days, a local mystery had become an international obsession. Researchers began examining the footage frame by frame. Most attention centered on the carvings near the bottom of the staircase. Some symbols resembled Akkadian cuneiform. Others appeared closer to early Aramaic. Yet scripts separated by centuries seemed to share the same wall, raising the possibility that the chamber had been reused, modified, or deliberately staged. Then one image escaped online. It showed 4 elongated figures standing around a pattern of carved waves. The stone was damaged and the image inconclusive, but for millions of viewers, the connection was immediate. Revelation 9, verse 14, speaks of the 4 angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates. The verse does not describe an archaeological chamber, nor does it say that explorers will discover chains or underground passages. Scripture should never be forced to fit every rumor. Still, the resemblance was unsettling. 4 figures: a great river, a place of restraint, an appointed release. Many scholars argued that groups of 4 were common in ancient art and could represent guardians, rulers, directions, or seasons. The flowing lines might symbolize a river, but they could also represent chaos or sacred water. Yet the staircase appeared to descend beneath an old section of the Euphrates riverbed. A formal team reportedly entered soon afterward with thermal cameras, oxygen monitors, mapping equipment, and portable lights. Inside, they found fresh marks along one wall. Not ancient inscriptions. Recent scratches. Several appeared to form letters. One resembled the beginning of a name. Then a vibration passed through the floor. Dust fell from the ceiling. 2 lamps flickered out. From somewhere beyond the mapped tunnel, the metallic scraping began again. A long movement. A heavy pause. Then another movement. Some investigators blamed unstable sediment or old metal supports shifting under pressure. But several witnesses later claimed the sound did not seem random. It seemed measured, as though something below them was moving with purpose. The excavation continued through a crack beneath 4 stone pillars. Workers removed debris until a narrow corridor appeared behind the collapsed floor. Unlike the earlier rooms, this section contained almost no writing. Black deposits covered the walls, and the passage remained strangely dry despite its position beneath the river. At the end stood a sealed chamber. When the stones were removed, portable lights revealed what first looked like a broken statue. Then the team saw the ribs. It was a skeleton, or something shaped like one. The figure appeared human, but its proportions were unusual. The arms were extremely long, the rib cage was broad. The skull extended backward, though damage and mineral buildup made its original shape impossible to determine. Projections along the spine had fused with the surrounding deposits, creating the appearance of hardened blades. There are natural explanations for such distortion. Burial pressure, disease, mineral growth, animal disturbance, and deliberate cranial shaping can all alter human remains. But 3 objects had been arranged beside the body: a sword, a shield, and a stringed instrument. The sword was unusually long and marked near the center. The circular shield carried 4 narrow figures surrounding a flowing pattern. The instrument was more disturbing. Its frame had decayed, yet several strands remained stretched across it. The skeletal hands were curved around the object, as though it had once been held. The chamber did not resemble a royal tomb. There were no treasures, decorated walls, or ceremonial offerings. Behind the remains, a translator found a damaged inscription. Only one phrase could be tentatively reconstructed. He descended and instructed them. That sentence turned attention toward ancient traditions of forbidden teachers. Genesis 6 briefly describes the sons of God, the daughters of men, and mighty beings in the earth. Later Jewish writings expanded the story, describing rebellious watchers who taught humanity knowledge that became destructive warfare, weapons, sorcery, and other forbidden arts. One name soon dominated online discussion: Azazel. Leviticus associates Azazel with the wilderness ritual of the scapegoat, while later, apocalyptic traditions connect the name with rebellion and judgment. The Bible does not say Azazel was buried beneath the Euphrates, and it does not identify the remains in this chamber. Still, the sword, the instrument, and the inscription formed a disturbing pattern. Knowledge, violence, corruption, and something sealed beneath the earth. To understand the fear surrounding the discovery, we must understand the river itself. The Euphrates is one of the great arteries of civilization. Along its banks rose cities, kingdoms, farms, temples, and trade routes that shaped the ancient Near East. It also appears near the beginning and the end of the biblical story. Genesis names the Euphrates among the rivers connected to Eden. Later, it marked part of the territory promised to Abraham's descendants. Babylon, the empire that conquered Jerusalem and carried Judah into exile, belonged to the wider Euphrates world. Then Revelation returns to the river. In Revelation 9, 4 beings are bound there. In Revelation 16, verse 12, the sixth angel pours out his bowl upon the Euphrates, and its water is dried to prepare a way for the kings from the east. Modern drought alone does not prove that prophecy has been fulfilled. Rivers have changed course, fallen, and risen many times. Responsible interpretation requires patience, but the symbolism remains powerful. In Scripture, the Euphrates often stands at a boundary between promise and empire, between God's people and threatening powers, between what is restrained and what is allowed to cross. That is why every report of the river receding attracts prophetic attention. The verified crisis is already serious. Millions depend on the Euphrates for drinking water, irrigation, electricity, and survival. Reservoirs have declined in some regions. Pollution and salinity have worsened. Farmers have watched fields fail. The river has not disappeared, but it is under pressure. As water retreats, older landscapes return. Roads, foundations, caves, burial places, and settlements hidden for decades. Some discoveries are genuine. Others are misidentified footage from the Tigris Basin or unrelated excavations. Some may be pure invention. Yet the biblical warning does not depend on a viral video being true. The changing Euphrates already shows how quickly human security can fail. A river that nourished empires can weaken. A civilization that trusts its own strength can become thirsty. And a boundary once used in prophecy can suddenly return to the center of world attention. As rumors spread, research teams attempted to reach newly exposed areas along the Euphrates corridor. According to the account, one international expedition included archaeologists, engineers, translators, camera crews, and security personnel. Their purpose was to map the openings before rising water or collapsing ground buried them again. But the journey became difficult almost immediately. Permits were delayed near the Turkish-Syrian border. Security checkpoints multiplied. Officials feared that treasure hunters, journalists, religious groups, and independent explorers would overwhelm unstable sites already damaged by erosion. Local stories made the atmosphere heavier. Shepherds spoke of vibrations beneath the banks. Workers claimed stone steps appeared after mud collapsed overnight. Some villagers refused to approach certain openings after sunset because of sounds rising from below. After weeks of delay, the expedition reorganized its route through southern Iraq. From Basra, the teams moved north through palm groves, crowded camps, flooded villages, and isolated settlements. The journey revealed a reality often ignored in sensational stories. The people living beside the Euphrates were not characters in a prophecy documentary. They were families facing damaged roads, polluted water, poverty, conflict, and displacement. Children ran beside boats asking for food. Livestock wandered through mud. Floodwaters surrounded villages, already weakened by years of hardship. Yet every conversation returned to the same questions. What had been found upriver? Why had access been restricted? Why did some teams enter the openings and then vanish from public view? The farther the convoy traveled, the less the mission felt like an ordinary excavation. Not because anything supernatural had been proven, but because fear, suffering, rumor, and prophecy had merged into one story. The Euphrates had become more than a river. It had become a mirror. People looked into it and saw war, judgment, secrecy, ancient beings, or the possibility that the warnings of Scripture were no longer distant. As rumors spread, research teams attempted to reach newly exposed areas along the Euphrates corridor. According to the account, One international expedition included archaeologists, engineers, translators, camera crews, and security personnel. Their purpose was to map the openings before rising water or collapsing ground buried them again. But the journey became difficult almost immediately. Permits were delayed near the Turkish-Syrian border. Security checkpoints multiplied. Officials feared that treasure hunters, journalists, religious groups, and independent explorers would overwhelm unstable sites already damaged by erosion. Local stories made the atmosphere heavier. Shepherds spoke of vibrations beneath the banks. Workers claimed stone steps appeared after mud collapsed overnight. Some villagers refused to approach certain openings after sunset because of sounds rising from below. After weeks of delay, the expedition reorganized its route through southern Iraq. From Basra, the teams moved north through palm groves, crowded camps, flooded villages, and isolated settlements. The journey revealed a reality often ignored in sensational stories. The people living beside the Euphrates were not characters in a prophecy documentary. They were families facing damaged roads, polluted water, poverty, conflict, and displacement. Children ran beside boats asking for food. Livestock wandered through mud. Floodwater surrounded villages, already weakened by years of hardship. Yet every conversation returned to the same questions. What had been found upriver? Why had access been restricted? Why did some teams enter the openings and then vanish from public view? The farther the convoy traveled, the less the mission felt like an ordinary excavation. Not because anything supernatural had been proven, but because fear, suffering, rumor, and prophecy had merged into one story. The Euphrates had become more than a river. It had become a mirror. People looked into it and saw war, judgment, secrecy, ancient beings, or the possibility that the warnings of Scripture were no longer distant. When the expedition approached the reported excavation zone, the entire area had changed. Military checkpoints surrounded nearby roads. Drone flights were restricted. Villagers were questioned before entering controlled sections of the riverbank. Some videos disappeared shortly after being posted. Others returned with altered dates, new captions, or claims that could not be traced to any witness. Two narratives quickly formed. One said the footage was fabricated and authorities were closing dangerous tunnels to prevent looting and collapse. The other claimed something had been found that governments were desperate to hide. Workers spoke of vibrations shaking the lower chambers at night. Fishermen claimed metallic sounds continued beneath the bank after excavation stopped. Then sections of the site collapsed. Whether the cause was unstable geology, flood pressure, deliberate demolition, or something else was never publicly established. The operation was suspended. Researchers left. Equipment was removed. And the mystery hardened into legend. But one detail remained disturbing. The chamber did not appear designed to protect treasure. There were no royal ornaments, ceremonial thrones, or archives. Instead, the layout suggested confinement. Narrow passages, reinforced stone, repeated images of four figures, objects linked to warfare and instruction, and sounds compared to metal moving beneath the floor. Jude, verse 6, speaks of angels who abandoned their proper place and are kept in chains under darkness until judgment. 2 Peter 2-4 uses similar imagery, describing rebellious angels held in gloomy restraint. Neither passage identifies this cave, but together with Revelation, they reveal a biblical pattern. Evil is not beyond God's control. What is bound cannot move until He permits it. What is hidden will not remain hidden forever. And what is appointed for judgment cannot escape its hour. That is the deeper terror within the story. Not merely that explorers may have opened the wrong chamber, but that Scripture describes unseen rebellion as real, restrained, and moving toward a final reckoning. So, is the book of Revelation happening in real time? The honest answer must be more careful than the headlines. The Euphrates is under severe environmental pressure. Ancient sites are being exposed across the wider region. But the cave, the missing teenager, the skeleton, the weapons, and the 4 carved figures remain unverified claims. A responsible believer should not build faith upon footage that cannot be authenticated. Christian hope does not depend on a distorted skeleton. The authority of Scripture does not rise or fall with an anonymous video. Jesus warned his followers about deception. In Matthew 24:4, his first response to questions about the end was not a timeline, but a command. Take heed that no man deceive you. That warning matters now. Images can be edited. Locations can be mislabeled. Old discoveries can be presented as new. Fear can spread faster than truth. Yet discernment does not mean indifference. Even when a viral story proves false, the biblical themes it awakens may still deserve attention. The Euphrates is changing. Nations around it remain unstable. Water insecurity is growing. Ancient boundaries are returning to geopolitical focus. The world continues moving through conflict, deception, and spiritual exhaustion. Luke 21 describes distress among nations, but Christ did not give that warning to paralyze his followers. He told them to lift up their heads. The purpose of prophecy is not panic. It is faithfulness. The right response is not to chase every cave, but to examine our hearts. Are we ready to stand before God? Are we living with mercy? Are we serving those who suffer along the very river we turn into a symbol? Some future discoveries will be genuine. Others will be mistakes or deliberate deception. But Scripture has already made the central truth clear. Human kingdoms are temporary. Judgment is real. Christ will return. And no secret beneath the earth is more urgent than the condition of the human soul. For thousands of years, the Euphrates has carried armies, merchants, exiles, farmers, kings, and refugees. It has watered fields, divided empires, and witnessed the rise of cities whose names now survive only in stone. Beneath its changing banks may lie temples, houses, roads, graves, tools, inscriptions, and forgotten settlements. That alone makes every genuine discovery extraordinary. Perhaps the sounds beneath the river are only collapsing tunnels. Perhaps the carvings belong to an unknown ritual tradition. Perhaps the skeleton was distorted by pressure, disease, mineral growth, or an unusual burial practice. Perhaps the entire cave story is a modern legend assembled from unrelated footage. All of those explanations remain possible. But the fear surrounding the Euphrates does not come from one object. It comes from the pattern people believe they see. A river connected to Eden and empire. A prophecy about 4 restrained beings. Another prophecy about drying water. 4 figures carved beside flowing lines. A sealed chamber beneath the riverbed. Weapons placed beside unusual remains. And a world already marked by drought, war, instability, and spiritual confusion. That pattern may be exaggerated or misunderstood, yet it touches something deep within the human heart. We know civilizations can fall. We know what has been buried for centuries can suddenly return. And we know the visible world does not answer every moral and spiritual question. Daniel 12 describes words sealed until the time of the end, when knowledge would increase. Our generation can scan beneath the earth, map ruins from space, reconstruct faces from bone, and transmit a discovery worldwide within seconds. Yet greater knowledge has not removed fear. It has shown us how much remains hidden. Every uncovered stone reminds us that history is not dead. It is waiting beneath our feet. The most disturbing possibility may not be that one chamber has already been opened. It may be that the deepest passage has not yet been reached. And somewhere beneath the shrinking banks of the Euphrates, something from the ancient world may still be waiting in the dark. Whatever is ultimately discovered beneath the Euphrates, one truth remains clear. The world is changing. Rivers are shrinking. Ancient places are reappearing. Nations are growing more unstable. Fear spreads faster than ever, and every new mystery seems to raise questions humanity cannot easily answer. But believers were never called to live in panic. We were called to watch, to pay attention without becoming consumed by speculation, to examine what is happening with wisdom, patience, and discernment. We were called to pray, not only for understanding, but for the people living through drought, war, displacement, hunger, and uncertainty along the Euphrates and beyond. Prophecy should never make us cold toward suffering. It should make us more compassionate, more faithful, more aware that time is precious. And finally, we were called to look up, not toward every strange light, every viral video, or every frightening headline, but toward the one who remains above every nation, every crisis, and every mystery still buried beneath the earth. The deepest question is not whether one cave has been opened. It is whether our hearts are ready. Are we walking in truth? Are we living with mercy? Are we holding tightly to faith while the world becomes more uncertain? No discovery beneath the Euphrates can change who God is. No hidden chamber can overthrow His authority. And no darkness beneath the earth can overcome the light of Christ. So watch carefully, pray continually, and look up with hope, because the purpose of biblical warning is not to leave us trembling in fear. It is to awaken us before it is too late. If this message spoke to you, share it with someone who needs encouragement. Subscribe for more biblical mysteries and prophetic investigations, and write these 3 words in the comments. Watch, pray, look up.